So this is the extent of the lunar gauges. At night right now you can see a little bit of the indiglow at the base, and that's as good as it gets. And the GoPro is actually doing a really good job at brightening up these gauges, but I can't actually read this physically with my eyes because it's so dark right now. So that is why we need to fix the backlighting on these gauges. You can see I've put the little rubber condom thing fit right in the hole with a little bit of automotive goop here, or marine goop, which is clear. Got the LED stuffed in there from the back side and got that soldered right onto the board. So go ahead and I'll put this guy back together, and then I'll show you guys how I got to this stage, and hopefully we can fix the oil and boost gauges as well. Alright guys, got my soldering iron very strategically placed here. So I'm actually soldering the LED right onto the board. There we go. They're soldered on. Just tuck the positive wire back here, or negative, and we should be good to put our gauge back together. So pulled the board back down, and we have our fancy Christmas tree separator ring here, which will go on like that. And we won't be putting this guy, so this guy used to be in here, and this is the old circuit board for the indigo or reverse glow, whatever you want to call it. So this is no longer required, which means we can put the face directly on here like so, and then make sure your crystal is clean. The actual inner crystal, which we will not have access to once everything is back together. We'll clean the other crystal. Like that. And we should be able to sneak the bezel back on. There we go. Our gauge is now back together. You can see it did minimal damage or marks on the outer edge of the ring, as we were very careful with that. And we can probably come up with something to clean that up a little bit. Just got like the rubber side, the plastic side of the back of a little screwdriver, and I'm just going to work my way around back of the bezel edge like this, and everything looks pretty good here. And once it's in the pillar pod, you're never going to see the back here, but I have to say, it did a pretty good job at keeping that nice and not wrecking anything. So we should be able to hook this up and have a nice green glow in here, as opposed to the dead reverse glow that was once done through this little board here. So this will now be trash. I do know that this is a Christmas tree light and not to be used for reliability of your air-fuel ratio, but it was the perfect gauge to tear down and do this test with. We can consider this gauge the guinea pig, if you will, and excited to see how this turns out. All right guys, so next is going to be the boost gauge. So I just peeled this out of the pillar in the truck. It should be pretty straightforward as well. So the first thing that we want to do is probably get this fitting off, because whatever is attached to that needle on the gauge, I presume the board and everything is going to be on here, and we need to get everything to slide out forward, which means that nut needs to come off. That off. So things should be a little bit more interesting with this one since there's actually a needle involved. All right, you can actually feel things are loose. So now, flathead screwdriver. And you're gonna get behind the bezel here. Just take your time, don't need to get too crazy. There we go, got it. Look at that, we can pull the gauge right out. That's a good start. Pop our needle off. So here's the 3 layers. There's a circuit board on the back here, and then there's the layer which that circuit board goes to power up the Indiglow or Lunar Glow, Reverse Glow, whatever you want to call it. So this face is transparent. We already know that. So the question is, can I pop these 2 layers off, find a way to shine light through the back section here that will shine right through that gauge face. All right, guys, I don't know if a good thing happened or a bad thing happened. Part of the gauge is apart. And what I've learned is, there we go. These guys thread in. So I managed to do a little bit of prying with a screwdriver from the back side. There's our face. Oops, there's our Indiglow setup. Oh, that's interesting. The zip tie actually holds the board on. So now what we need to do is very carefully rebuild our gauge. Like this arm actually goes up. No, must go down. Hope you guys like playing with small parts. There we go. And now, this is what our gauge looks like on its own. So some of the problem we're going to face is that black housing is going to keep some of the back of this dark, unfortunately. But there's really nothing that we can do about that. So these are threaded, so just by tapping, should naturally turn and thread itself. I'm hoping. So these actually went in further than what they were before because we've actually removed this element of thickness. So everything should be nice and sturdy here. We shouldn't have anything to worry about. I'm gonna go ahead and put the needle stop back over here. pressure fit. And now we'll do our needle. So as long as it's snapping back to 0 after we push, everything should be good. So you can now see we have this whole area, the backside's open. You can see it is transparent. So as I said before, any of the dark area here for the actual gauge mechanism, any light that we get, no light's going to get through, obviously, this opaque area here. So we will get transparency through what we can see here, which is better than nothing. It will illuminate all of the numbers for the most part, so I'm okay with that. And the next thing that we have to look at is just the actual bulb placement. So before, the wires were passing through here. This is obviously for the boost gauge, for the actual mechanism there. Hopefully all this calibration's gonna be okay. So what I'm thinking is I'm actually gonna use this grommet to my advantage. I'm gonna stick this LED right in the grommet and hope we'll do a test to see if that will shine enough. In fact, the way that I think I'll do it, so I'll cut this little guy off. I'll put a link in the video to these LEDs that I got. I got them off of Amazon for like $5. If you lube the LED up, there we go. See, the LED is sticking in there good now. Well, things I think are about as good as they're gonna get. There's no getting around, like I said, this black area. It's just gonna be impossible to get light on, but everything in the top area where we're making boost lights up, which is nice. So at least I'm gonna know when I'm making boost, and that's pretty much gonna be the end of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this guy back together now. There we go, boost gauge done, air fuel gauge done. Now we just have to do the oil pressure, and we'll be able to put these back in the truck and at least be able to see what they're doing at night. So now we're gonna put this section here in the vise so that we're not touching any of the main mechanism. We're going to pry up in between this board for the lunar glow, reverse glow panel, just enough so we can get these little punch screws up enough so we can twist them out, because they are threaded in there. And then we'll be able to take this reverse glow plate out and the board. And just got right down near both sides. There's one. I just felt it come out. There we go. And I think I might have just broke the mechanism. See how easy these come out once you can get them started. Face, reverse glow board. There we go. So I guess in reality, if you could get new ones of these, you could fix the gauges totally. So what broke is a little bit of the gear assembly here. Actually, you know what? Something tells me this was over here. like this. I think it is. I think I could probably glue that on. I might be in luck here, guys. Alright guys, so everything is glued and cured. And the gears seem to be working as they should. That's in place. Gauge face in place. So it is nice and dark outside, so I can show you guys the results of the lunar gauge fix. So here is our result. You can see the air-fuel ratio gauge. This one turned out awesome, and that's just a result of the design of the gauge. There's nothing in the middle. There's a perfect hole there, so we almost got pretty much full coverage of illumination in here. Now, the boost and the oil pressure gauges, you can clearly see where the mechanisms are, and it's a little unfortunate, but it's just the reality of things. The nice thing, however, is I can actually see all of the numerical markers and dashes, so at least the important stuff that I need to see is now visible. The green LEDs, you know, they do a pretty good job. You can see this is the factory look here in the cluster, and I feel like that's almost faded over factory over time. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just the contrast. This green is making that look not very green. So that's kind of the best we can do with what we have. There you guys go. The attempt of the lunar gauge fix. There clearly isn't 100% foolproof way, and I don't know if some of the other gauges are designed any differently. My assumption is that any water temp gauges or anything else that are mechanical are most likely all going to be designed this way. I highly doubt, or to my knowledge, I don't know if any of those gauges in the Lunar series were ever electronic gauges. Maybe the mechanisms behind that gauge faceplate might be different and maybe not obstructing anything, but hey, I guess in the daytime the lunar gauges look nice, and at nighttime, well, we get what we have. So my other alternative would be to swap to silver face gauge, and that way I could have silver faces and then put green bulbs in with the blue condoms, and probably get that close to the factory look on the gauge cluster. I do feel like my gauge cluster is looking not as greenish blue as it used to from factory, but it is what it is, guys. I did the best that I could. Let me know your thoughts. Should I keep them for the old retro, you know, look and feel, or should I ditch them because, well, hey, I got that useless narrow band in there anyways? But it was worth a shot, guys. So anyways, thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you guys next time.